I'm sitting in the small examination room at Starlight Medical Center when Dr. Mason Bennett closes the door behind Mason Bennett and pulls a chair closer to me. Mason takes a deep breath. Ethan, the test results came back this morning. My hands begin to shake. Tell me. Mason lowers Mason's voice. The biopsy confirmed the diagnosis. You have lymphoma. For a few seconds, I hear nothing. The sounds from the hallway disappear. The world becomes strangely quiet. Finally, I force myself to speak. How bad is it? We caught the disease early enough to fight it, but the treatment won't be easy. I laugh weakly. That sounds like a doctor trying to avoid frightening a patient. Mason folds Mason's arms. That sounds like a friend trying to be honest. I look down at the floor. I never thought something like this would happen to me. Nobody ever does. My phone vibrates. Vanessa is calling. I answer immediately. Vanessa, can you come to the hospital? Why? The doctors found something. Vanessa is silent for a moment. Is it serious? Very serious. I'll be there soon. I hang up and lean back in the chair. Mason places a hand on my shoulder. You don't have to face this alone. I nod, but fear settles deep inside me. 2 hours later, Vanessa walks into the room wearing an expensive coat and carrying a designer handbag. 10 years of marriage should have made the moment feel comforting, but something feels different. Vanessa looks at Mason. Can Ethan and Vanessa have a moment alone? Mason nods. Of course. The door closes. Vanessa looks at me. What happened? I have cancer. Vanessa's face turns pale. You're serious? I wish I wasn't. Vanessa sits down slowly. Are the doctors sure? Mason ran every test twice. Vanessa stares at the wall. How long will treatment take? I don't know. The room becomes quiet. I reach for Vanessa's hand. We'll get through this. Vanessa gently pulls away. I need some time to think. My heart sinks. Think about what? Everything. That night, I don't sleep. The following weeks become a blur of treatments, medications, and endless tests. I lose weight. I lose strength. Worst of all, I begin losing the person I love. Every morning, I wake up hoping Vanessa will smile at me the way Vanessa once did. Every evening, I realize that hope is disappearing. One afternoon, Vanessa finally speaks. Ethan, we need to talk. I look up from the couch. That sentence never brings good news. Vanessa remains standing. I can't do this anymore. I stare at Vanessa. Can't do what? I can't spend the rest of my life taking care of a sick person. The words strike harder than the illness itself. What are you saying? I'm saying this situation is destroying everything. I'm your husband. I know. 10 years together have to mean something. They do. Then stay. Vanessa wipes away a tear. I can't. I stand up slowly. Is there someone else? Vanessa avoids my eyes. That's not important. That means yes. Vanessa says nothing. I take a deep breath. Who is it? Daniel Harper. I recognize the name immediately. Daniel owns several real estate companies in Chicago. How long? A few months. A few months. I didn't plan for this to happen. I cannot believe what I am hearing. So Vanessa decided to leave when life became difficult. Vanessa lowers Vanessa's head. Vanessa didn't choose cancer. Neither did I. Vanessa picks up a suitcase near the door. I'll come back later for the rest of my things. The front door closes. I stand alone in the living room. The next morning, another wave of nausea sends me back to the hospital. A cheerful voice interrupts my thoughts. Good morning, Mr. Calloway. I turn toward the doorway. A nurse smiles at me. Hello. My name is Olivia Reed. I'll be helping with the treatment plan. Nice to meet you, Olivia. Olivia studies my face. You look exhausted. My life has been complicated lately. Olivia smiles gently. Then let's take things one day at a time. For the first time in weeks, I smile. Later that afternoon, Mason enters the room. How are you feeling? Terrible. Physically or emotionally? Both. Mason pulls up a chair. Want to talk about Vanessa? Not really. Too bad. Mason is asking anyway. I laugh quietly. Vanessa left. Mason's expression darkens. Vanessa actually left? Vanessa found somebody else. Then Vanessa made a terrible mistake. I glance around the room. Neither Mason nor Olivia knows that I own most of the hospital. Years ago, I decided to keep my identity private. Now the secret feels heavier than ever. 3 days later, my phone rings. Hello. Ethan, this is Charlotte Bennett. Mason's sister? Exactly. Why are you calling? Vanessa filed for divorce. I close my eyes. That was fast. There's something else. What? Daniel and Vanessa were seen together at a restaurant. I look out the window at the dark sky above Chicago. I understand. Are you going to fight? Against cancer or against Vanessa? Both. I place the phone on the table and stare at the hospital walls surrounding me. At that moment, I realize that cancer is not the greatest battle of my life. Betrayal is. The divorce papers remained on the table beside my hospital bed for 2 days before I finally touched them. Olivia Reed walked into the room carrying a clipboard and immediately noticed the envelope. Bad news? Olivia asked. I laughed bitterly. That depends on your definition of bad. Olivia sat down beside me. You don't have to pretend to be strong all the time. I'm not pretending. Then why haven't you opened the envelope? Because I already know what's inside. Olivia looked at me for a moment. Sometimes the things we avoid hurt us more than the things we face. Olivia sounds a lot like Mason. Olivia will take that as a compliment. I picked up the envelope, opened it, and began reading. Every word felt colder than the last. My marriage was over. 10 years of memories had been reduced to a stack of papers. That evening, Mason Bennett entered the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. I brought the good kind, Mason said. I thought doctors hated coffee. Doctors hate weakness. Doctors love coffee. I smiled faintly. Mason handed me one of the cups. So what now? I don't know. Wrong answer. I looked up. What? The question isn't what happens now. The question is what Ethan does now. Does Mason always sound like a motivational speaker? Only when necessary. I shook my head. I'm tired. Then rest. I'm angry. Then admit it. I want revenge. Mason remained silent for a few seconds. That feeling is normal. I want Vanessa to understand the pain Vanessa caused. And then what? I don't know. Mason leaned forward. Ethan, revenge can become another disease. I can't simply forget everything. I'm not asking Ethan to forget. Mason is asking Ethan to survive. The word echoed in my mind. Survive. For the next several days, my treatments continued. Every session drained more energy from my body. One afternoon, Olivia entered my room with a smile. Guess what? I don't think guessing is one of my talents anymore. Your test results look better. I stared at Olivia. Seriously? Seriously. Then maybe the universe isn't completely against me. Olivia laughed. That's the spirit. I wouldn't go that far. Olivia pointed toward the window. Look outside. I frowned. Why? Just do it. The sun was setting over the city. Beautiful, isn't it? Olivia asked. I haven't noticed the view before. Exactly. What does that mean? It means life keeps moving, even when people want life to stop. That night, I could not sleep. My mind drifted back to another evening many years earlier. Vanessa and I had been standing on a bridge overlooking the Chicago River. Vanessa had smiled and squeezed my hand. Promise something, Vanessa said. What? No matter what happens, we'll face everything together. I smiled. That's easy. Vanessa laughed. Why? Because I love Vanessa. The memory disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. I turned onto my side and stared at the ceiling. Promises suddenly seemed very fragile. The following morning, Charlotte Bennett arrived carrying a thick folder. Mason said Charlotte should visit. That sounds dangerous. Charlotte smiled. Charlotte gets that reaction a lot. I pointed at the folder. What's that? Financial documents. Exciting. Actually, yes. Charlotte opened the folder. Vanessa is requesting a significant settlement. I sighed. I'm not surprised. Daniel Harper might be influencing Vanessa. That doesn't surprise me either. Charlotte crossed Charlotte's arms. Daniel has a reputation. What kind of reputation? The kind smart people avoid. Before I could answer, my phone vibrated. Vanessa's name appeared on the screen. Charlotte raised an eyebrow. Are Ethan and Vanessa speaking again? Not by choice. I answered the call. What do Vanessa want? Vanessa sounded irritated. Daniel promised an investment would succeed. And it failed. I almost laughed. That's unfortunate. Daniel says the market is responsible. What does Vanessa think? I think Daniel is trying to fix everything. A man's voice suddenly echoed in the background. Tell Ethan to mind Ethan's own business. I immediately recognized Daniel Harper. Vanessa lowered Vanessa's voice. I'll call later. The call ended. Charlotte slowly shook Charlotte's head. That relationship won't last. Maybe. Charlotte is serious. So am I. Later that afternoon, I stepped into an elevator and found Samuel Pierce waiting inside. Samuel adjusted Samuel's tie. Good afternoon, Mr. Calloway. Samuel, How many times have I asked Samuel to call me Ethan? Not enough times. I smiled. Has anyone discovered the truth? Samuel understood the question immediately. No. Good. The board continues protecting your privacy. Excellent. Samuel looked carefully at me. Does Ethan regret keeping the secret? I thought about Vanessa. No. Why not? Because secrets reveal people's true nature. Samuel nodded. A valuable lesson. Several days passed. My health slowly improved. Daniel's problems grew worse. Vanessa called more often. I answered less often. Then one evening, Mason walked into my room and found me staring at old photographs. Mason picked one up. Vanessa looked happy. Vanessa was happy. What changed? I don't know. Mason placed the picture on the table. Actually, Ethan does know. I looked at Mason. What does that mean? It means Vanessa loved comfort more than commitment. The words hurt because the words were true. I stood up and walked toward the window. The city lights sparkled below. For the first time in months, I felt something stronger than grief. I felt determination. I finally understood that spending every day chasing the past would only destroy my future. At that moment, I made a choice. I would stop looking backward. I would start living again. 3 months passed, and for the first time in a very long time, I finally felt as though I was winning. The treatments were still difficult, but my strength had returned little by little. One morning, Olivia Reed walked into my room, carrying a tablet. Olivia smiled. Mr. Calloway, the latest results look excellent. I looked up. Excellent. Excellent. Olivia isn't exaggerating. Olivia never exaggerates. I laughed. Then I'll celebrate. With cake. With coffee. That sounds much less exciting. As Olivia left the room, Mason Bennett entered. Mason folded Mason's arms. I heard the good news. I suppose the entire hospital knows. Not the entire hospital. Fair enough. Mason pulled up a chair. So how does Ethan feel? Stronger. Only physically. I thought for a moment. No. Emotionally as well. Mason smiled. Good. I've wasted enough time feeling sorry for myself. Then what comes next? I looked around the room. I think it's time to get back to work. Mason grinned. I've been waiting to hear those words. Later that evening, I stepped into a private conference room on the top floor of the building. Samuel Pierce was already waiting. Good evening, Mr. Calloway. Good evening, Samuel. Samuel placed several files on the table. The board approved the expansion project. Excellent. The financial reports also look strong. I nodded. That's good news. Samuel adjusted Samuel's glasses. The hospital has changed thousands of lives. That's always been the goal. Samuel smiled. Your father would have been proud. I looked toward the window overlooking Chicago. My father believed that money should build something meaningful. And Ethan honored that belief. Very few people knew the truth. To everyone else, I was simply another patient fighting cancer. Only Samuel, Mason, Charlotte Bennett, and a few board members knew that I owned the hospital. Keeping the secret had once seemed unnecessary. Now the secret had become valuable. A week later, Charlotte called me. Ethan, Charlotte has news. Good news or bad news? That depends on how much Ethan enjoys watching arrogant people fail. I smiled. Go on. Daniel Harper's companies are drowning in debt. I leaned back in my chair. How serious is the situation? Very serious. Anything else? Several investigations have started. Investigations? Fraud allegations. I remained silent. Charlotte laughed softly. Charlotte knows that expression. What expression? The expression Ethan makes while pretending not to enjoy the situation. I'm trying to be a better person. How unfortunate. 2 days later, my phone rang. Vanessa's name appeared on the screen. I answered immediately. What happened? Vanessa sounded exhausted. How did Ethan know something happened? Vanessa never calls without a reason. Vanessa sighed. Daniel lied. About what? About money. Only money? Vanessa hesitated. Daniel lied about many things. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry to hear that. Vanessa needs someone to talk to. Daniel sounds like the better choice. The line went silent. Then Vanessa spoke again. Vanessa misses home. Home disappeared months ago. I ended the call. The following morning, I was walking through one of the hospital corridors when a nurse rushed toward me. Mr. Calloway, someone is asking for Ethan. Who? The nurse looked nervous. Vanessa Calloway. I frowned. Why is Vanessa here? I'm not sure. As I approached the main lobby, I stopped walking. Vanessa was standing near the reception desk. Samuel Pierce was standing beside Vanessa. Vanessa looked completely shocked. The expression on Vanessa's face told me everything. Vanessa knew. I walked forward. Samuel, what's happening? Samuel cleared Samuel's throat. There was an unexpected situation. Vanessa stared at me. Ethan owns this hospital? I remained calm. Yes. Since when? Since the beginning. Vanessa shook Vanessa's head. That's impossible. No. That's the truth. You never told Vanessa. You never asked. Vanessa looked around the enormous lobby. This entire place belongs to Ethan? Most of it. Vanessa lowered Vanessa's eyes. Oh my God. At that moment, Daniel Harper entered the building. Daniel looked angry. There you are. Vanessa turned around. Daniel, not now. Daniel pointed at me. Who is this man? Vanessa stared at Daniel. Ethan owns the hospital. Daniel's face immediately lost all color. What? Vanessa folded Vanessa's arms. Everything Daniel said about Ethan was wrong. Daniel forced a smile. Well, that's certainly interesting. I looked directly at Daniel. I believe Daniel should leave. Daniel glared at me. This conversation isn't finished. I disagree. Daniel turned around and stormed away. Vanessa looked back at me. Can Ethan and Vanessa talk? We're already talking. Privately. Several minutes later, we sat inside my office. Vanessa slowly looked around the room. I can't believe this. I never cared about impressing people. Why didn't Ethan tell Vanessa? Because I wanted Vanessa to love the person instead of the money. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Vanessa made a terrible mistake. I remained silent. Ethan, please say something. What should Ethan say? Anything. I looked directly into Vanessa's eyes. When Ethan needed support, Vanessa left. I was afraid. So was I. Vanessa didn't know what to do. Neither did I. Vanessa wiped away tears. Vanessa still loves Ethan. I almost laughed. That's an interesting coincidence. What does that mean? Vanessa discovered the truth, and suddenly Vanessa is in love again. That's not fair. No, Vanessa. Leaving a sick husband wasn't fair. Vanessa lowered Vanessa's head. Can Ethan forgive Vanessa? I took a deep breath. I don't know. Vanessa reached across the desk and grabbed my hand. Please give Vanessa another chance. The pain in Vanessa's voice sounded real. Unfortunately, so did the memory of that closed front door. The following week felt strangely peaceful. For months, anger had filled my thoughts. Fear had controlled my decisions. Betrayal had shaped every moment of my life. Now everything was changing. I was sitting in my office when Mason Bennett walked inside, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Mason placed 1 cup on my desk. Mason has a question. That sounds dangerous. Will Ethan give Vanessa another chance? I leaned back in my chair. No. That answer came quickly. I had months to think about it. Mason nodded. Then Mason is proud of Ethan. I haven't done anything remarkable. Surviving cancer is remarkable. Perhaps. Surviving betrayal is remarkable as well. I smiled. Mason always knows the right thing to say. Mason has years of practice. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Charlotte Bennett's name appeared on the screen. Hello, Charlotte. Ethan should sit down. I'm already sitting. Good. I laughed quietly. That's serious? Daniel Harper has officially lost everything. I sat up straight. What happened? The investigations uncovered hidden debts, fraudulent contracts, and missing money. I stared at the window. That's a disaster. Daniel's investors disappeared overnight. What about Daniel? Daniel is trying to save Daniel's reputation. And failing. Spectacularly. I thanked Charlotte and ended the call. Mason crossed Mason's arms. Justice moves slowly. Sometimes. How does Ethan feel? I thought carefully before answering. I expected to feel happy. And I don't. Why not? Because revenge doesn't heal anything. Later that afternoon, I received another call. This time, the caller was Vanessa. Ethan, Vanessa needs to talk. About Daniel? Yes. What happened? Daniel lied about everything. I closed my eyes. I know. Daniel used Vanessa. I'm aware of that. Vanessa's voice trembled. Vanessa is sorry. Vanessa already said that. I know. Then why call again? Because Vanessa doesn't know what to do anymore. For a moment, I remembered the night Vanessa had walked away from our marriage. I remembered the suitcase. I remembered the silence. Most of all, I remembered the pain. Finally, I spoke. Meet Ethan at the hospital tomorrow. The next morning, Vanessa entered my office. Vanessa looked completely different. The expensive clothes were gone. The confident smile had disappeared. Vanessa slowly sat down. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I wanted answers. Vanessa lowered Vanessa's head. Vanessa deserves that. I folded my arms. Then let's begin. Tears filled Vanessa's eyes. Vanessa never stopped caring. I shook my head. That's not true. It is. When Ethan was weak, Vanessa left. Vanessa was afraid. Ethan was afraid as well. Vanessa knows that now. I looked directly at Vanessa. Do Vanessa know what hurt the most? Vanessa remained silent. It wasn't the divorce. Vanessa looked surprised. It wasn't the affair. The tears began falling. It was the fact that Vanessa decided Ethan wasn't worth fighting for. Vanessa covered Vanessa's face. Vanessa hates that decision every single day. I stood up and walked toward the window. Money changes people. Vanessa slowly shook Vanessa's head. No, money reveals people. I turned around. Exactly. Vanessa stood up. Can Ethan forgive Vanessa? Yes. Hope immediately appeared in Vanessa's eyes. Then I spoke again. But forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. The hope disappeared instantly. Vanessa understands. No, Vanessa doesn't. Vanessa looked confused. I forgave Vanessa because carrying hatred would only create more pain. The room became silent. But Ethan can't go backward. Vanessa wiped away more tears. Then this is goodbye. Yes. Vanessa took a deep breath. I really did love Ethan. I know. Vanessa wishes things had been different. So do I. Vanessa quietly left the office. Several hours later, I visited my mother. Eleanor Calloway opened the front door and smiled. Eleanor has been waiting all afternoon. I hugged my mother. It's good to see Eleanor. Eleanor walked into the kitchen. Mason explained everything. Then Eleanor knows the entire story. Yes. I sat down. Did I make the right choice? Eleanor smiled. Ethan already knows the answer. Maybe. Ethan doesn't belong in the past. I looked down at the table. Some days are still difficult. Of course. How did Eleanor survive difficult times? Eleanor reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Pain can become a prison, or pain can become a lesson. I smiled. That sounds wise. That's because Eleanor is wise. For the first time in months, I laughed without forcing myself. The following morning, I returned to the hospital. Olivia Reed was waiting near the entrance. Olivia smiled. Olivia heard the good news. What good news? Your latest tests. I stared at Olivia. Tell me. You're going to be fine. I felt as though the world had suddenly stopped moving. Really? Olivia nodded. Really? I looked around the building that had become my second home. I thought about fear. I thought about loss. I thought about survival. Then Olivia spoke again. What happens next? I smiled. Ethan starts living again. Olivia laughed. That sounds like an excellent plan. As I walked through the long hallway, sunlight poured through the windows. Outside, the city continued moving forward. Inside, I finally understood something important. Survival wasn't simply about defeating cancer. Survival meant refusing to surrender hope. I glanced toward the entrance one last time. Vanessa was standing there. Vanessa had lost the future Vanessa once wanted. Meanwhile, I was finally ready to discover mine.